If you have 8 hours to do a task that should take 1 hour, it will take 8 hours to complete. And if you have 1 hour to complete a task that should take 8 hours, it will take 1 hour to complete. I don't know who said this or where I got it from, but from what I remember, it's just a provocative philosophical thought or idea, and it's not a truth. But when I first heard this quote, it really resonated with me, and to me, it really holds the essence of what effective time management can accomplish. I think I heard this like 5 or 6 years ago, and the reason that it really stuck with me is because as soon as I heard it, I got this vivid image of all the nights I'd spent pushing hard, trying to finish my assignments right before they were due. Even though I'd had weeks to finish it, I would often end up finishing 80% or more of it in the last hour before the deadline. When I only had 1 hour to complete a task that should have taken a couple hours, I managed to finish it anyway, seemingly compressing 4 hours of work into 1 hour. Now, of course, one cannot take something that truly takes 4 hours of work and complete it in 1 hour, at least not without losing quality. Now, my realization wasn't that I all of a sudden an hour before the deadline got some superhuman ability to complete 4 hours of effective work in only 1 hour, but it was that an hour before deadlines, my time management got drastically more efficient. And I think this is the trick to getting 8 hours of work done in 1 hour, is to increase your time management effectiveness. And there's a famous quote by Abraham Lincoln, which is, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 3 hours sharpening my axe," which relates to effective time management or making sure that you spend your time on the right things. Today I would say that I'm fairly good at this, and it is one of the things that I focus on daily and try to reflect over and try to think of how I can make sure that I spend my time on the right things. There's a concept called deliberate practice, and I think it's fairly common in sports, and it pretty much stands for what it sounds like it stands for, which is practicing things deliberately. To give some context to this, I thought I'd use Olympic weightlifting as an example, and the way that an Olympic weightlifter would use deliberate practice is by focusing extremely intently on every rep and every part of every rep that they do, constantly thinking about what is happening and what should be happening and what could be improved and how it can be improved. This is a very exhausting and intense way of practicing, and I think that the recommendation is that an athlete can only handle like 2 to 3 hours before it loses its benefit because of being too exhausting. And this is the way that I think of my time, and I want to employ some sort of deliberate practice to every task that I do. And the way that I do this is by asking a few questions both before and during trying to complete a task. So there are 5 questions that I ask. The first being, what is most important? The second being, what has to get done? The third being, how much time should this take? And the fourth being, what am I doing? And the fifth being, what should I be doing? By asking these questions, I'm able to catch myself as soon as I start to focus too much time on something that is not very important, and I'm able to refocus on the tasks that are important. I thought I'd go through all of them and tell you in more detail what I do for each of them. And the first one being what is most important. And this is where I basically take the goals and tasks that I have and I order them in order of importance. So basically the things that I think are most important go at the top, and the things that are less important go at the bottom. And the second one, what needs to get done, is where I basically take that list of tasks and goals in the first one, and I pick one task or one goal, and I break it down into what do I have to do to achieve this goal. And I try to be as specific as possible about each and every step. I look at this as the axe sharpening phase, where if I get this done properly and pay attention to all the details, then chopping down the tree will be as easy as just ticking off boxes. And it helps here to also again ask what are the most important things that need to get done. The third one, how much time should it take? Before I get started, I usually try to set a deadline, And when I do this, I try to cut myself a little bit too short, knowing that even if I don't meet the deadline, I will be very close to finished. Even if the deadline is ages away, I still try to enforce my own deadline. And this ensures, firstly, that I most likely will be done with time to spare before the actual deadline. And second, it further facilitates the focusing on the most important things in order to meet the deadline. The fourth question, what am I doing? This is something that I usually, after having answered the first 3 questions, I get started with the task, and then as soon as I realize that I'm slowing down or getting to a standstill, I try to reevaluate and think about what am I actually doing right now. And this is something that I combine with the 5th question, which is what should I be doing? This is where I usually go back to the start and reevaluate and try to look at, okay, what have I gotten done and what is now most important? Because generally what will happen is at the start you'll have a list of things that you think you need to do and a hierarchy of importance among those things. But after having completed some of those things, you might realize that there are new things that you didn't know at the start that you need to do that are not on the list, and maybe some of the priorities have shifted, so you realize that, okay, the 3rd thing is actually the most important thing. So then you have to go back and try to rearrange these things according to where you're at. And this is why reevaluation is super important, and continuing to question whether you are spending time on the right things and not just going down like a rabbit hole looking for an answer to a question that might not serve the whole. So asking these 5 questions is something that has really helped me increase my efficiency and help decrease the time that I spend on things. I hope you got something out of this video, and if you did, please share it or like it or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.